Yesterday, you read the book Queen of the Sea with a family member. Today, I'd like to read the book to you. So if you would please get Queen of the Sea and have it in front of you. And we will do the same thing that we do in class. I will read to you and I would like for you to follow along using your finger to track the words as we go. Queen of the Sea, written by Douglas Jones, illustrated by David M. H. Warfel. And we will begin on page 7. The wind was so cold and brisk by the sea, but they were hot. Fear, like a snake, was creeping down the line of men in armor. They were all staring down the beach, bracing for the ships of Spain. They were serving as a fence to stop the ships from landing. The Prince of Spain was sailing up the coast, racing to bring grief and pain to all England. The prince had the biggest ships and the biggest fleet of all, and England's ships were so small. He had hope that he could pounce upon England and trounce her. So that is just a poetic way of saying the King of Spain was hoping to attack England and, like a cat, pounce upon it and defeat England. And so when it talked about the men in armor were standing as a fence, they were basically standing on the beach waiting for these ships to arrive from Spain, and they were acting as like a defensive border to be there ready to defend their country. Then he could make an end of her queen and give England a prince more to his liking, one who would love the Pope in Rome. All England was in fear. Now we are on page 14. Then from the land they could hear horses running. Turning, they saw men on horses, with a shining lady riding along with them. She was the Queen, Queen Elizabeth. A cheer rose from the voices on the beach as she came to the place where the men stood. She wore a shining piece of steel mail across her chest and held a small lance up in the air. Remember when we talked about steel mail? That was like the metal chain link armor that she was wearing for protection. Very interesting thing for a queen to be wearing. Her horse was pacing up and down the line, and she spoke. Some of my men told me not to be at this camp, since I could be hurt by you. But we all love England, and I have no fear of my men. The men gave a loud cheer, and a glow came to her face. By the grace of God, I am willing, and I will pay the price for my God, my kingdom, and you, my men, to lay down my life If Spain lands, I will be with you to survive or die with you on this beach." Then, on her prancing horse, the Queen said in a strong voice, "I may have the form of a weak female, but I am as brave as a king." Then the men's cheers shot to the sky. It's very unusual for a queen or a king or anyone in high authority like that to engage in battle with the army. So this was a very unique situation with Queen Elizabeth coming down to the beach ready to fight with her men. We are on page 20. Sometime later, the ships of Spain were seen far down the south coast of England, and they were slicing the waves like razors, since the wind was with them. The ships of Spain made a long, long line in the sea that went for miles. That is a lot of ships. England's ships were hoisting their sails, but the wind was strong, and they were straining into it to get out of the bay, bouncing on the waves. Soon they were in the sea too. The ships of Spain stood tall over the ships of England, but the English were faster. Why do you think the English ships were faster? Yes, if you were paying attention, it told us at the very beginning of the book that the English ships were smaller than Spain's ships. And the King of Spain was hoping to use that to his advantage. But he didn't consider the fact that because they're smaller, the English ships were actually faster. They were tracing and lacing in and around the bigger ships like flies on horses, shooting and wincing, drowning the ships of Spain. The space on the beaches was full of men and women following the shots and fire and smoke. The guns would be shooting for 10 long days before a cease. And remember, a cease means before it would stop. Page 26. More and more of the prince's grand ships went down in flames or were taken as prizes, and more days were passing. On day 10, with the sun set and a pale moon shining, the English sent a small number of empty ships into the center of the last big bunch of Spain's ships. Then they set the ships on fire. With this dancing, roaring fire, Spain's ships fled in fear and howling. The last of the prince's ships could not go south now. They were too few, and they would all die if they went back into the English. Hence, they made the choice to keep going north and sail around the top of Scotland and then back to Spain, broken and sour. So their attempt to attack and defeat England did not work. And they're going to head back, the ships that are remaining, they're going to head back to Spain. England had won. Elizabeth's stance had been strong, and her men on ships had won for her and for home. And that is the end of Queen of the Sea. I think this story is inspiring. As I said, as Queen Elizabeth was willing to not only fight, she was willing to die with her men there on that beach. Thankfully, the majority of this battle was fought on the sea. And so the men on the beach did not have to engage in combat. The Lord was merciful to them, and they were still able to save England. All right, I hope you enjoyed reading this story. Today you're going to read the story along with your parents, again, doing two-finger tracking. And so I'm going to have a video for your parents to watch so they can understand how you do two-finger tracking.